Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult, video number 347, the True Wisdom Tradition. This is something that I've had in mind to make a video about for some time, and it delves partially into the old mysticism of like the pagan mystery schools, the Bacchic and Orphic and Eleusinian mysteries, etc. Partially about that, but later on you get a building upon this with Hermeticism and so forth, with one really simple phrase that sort of encompasses the basic premise and promulgates the mystic for a further generation, of course, Renaissance and thereafter. And that's as above, so below, and the natural counterpart, as below, so above. This is the highest notation, effectively, that's contained within the veiled symbolism of what we know of the mystery traditions. There are some parts that are up for interpretation. For instance, there was a proto-sacrament style system at Eleusis and so forth, and it's not entirely known. Like some of the stuff, like we know laurel leaves and purified salt and stuff were used in symbolic mock-up ritualism, and we're not exactly sure whether the actual food or bread, again, interpretations matter, being given was psychotropic. It could have very well been. I think that it's fairly likely. The addition of laurel, of course, brings to mind the Oracle of Delphi and so forth, although it doesn't appear to have psychotropic qualities, so if people are having visions and ecstatic orgiastic rites, I think it's more than just wine that they were drinking, although they were probably getting the good stuff, you know, the stuff boiled in lead pots to make it sweeter. They thought this was a good idea at the time, actually. It caused a lot of anemia patients among the upper classes, actually. The lower classes, they didn't have the money to sweeten their wine and typically mixed it with water. They're probably a lot more healthy. Here's the concept. The gods, or God or whatever, the pantheon, the cosmic force, is just an idealized human form. Again, as above, so below, as below, so above. The human is capable of recognizing one's own effective godhood and escaping from mortality in the sense that you would generally speak of it. Things are not unlawful to them. The concept is that through their self-awareness, their spiritual education, and their understanding, just the gnosis, the understanding of what the rituals and symbolism of the mysteries were, gave them that effective godhood. They said, well, we're basically the same. The gods are just symbolic archetypes. The more intelligent people, the poor would take religion literally. Well, Zeus is literally up there on Mount Olympus. The leadership and many of the priestly castes, wink wink, they were all a bunch of atheists. Well, there's no Zeus. Doesn't exist. It's basically just my way of getting people to do what I want them to do by making sure that they are not atheistic, that is, that they are practicing the rituals improperly. That's heresy. I can kill my dissidents that way. I'll just change the rules a little bit and then kill the people that I don't like that happen not to go along with it. This happened in ancient Rome many times. Constantine, Christianity, basically was born out of that premise. The mystics understood, no. The gods are real. They are symbolic archetypes. They represent all these different things. The sun, the moon, the cycle of the seasons with the story of Persephone, etc. They represent human concepts. All of those stories, they're symbolic, they're psychological, they're seasonal or natural in most cases. They represent sexuality, they represent human ingenuity, they represent everything, essentially. Everything is contained within that pantheon system, and the tales about the gods and the demigods and all these natural forces and critters that were roaming around all of the time. They're symbolic, but they were real. They were real people, but they're idealized. These are archetypal, idealized figures that have been made less multifaceted in some cases. Some of them not so much. We've partitioned, effectively, parts of the human emotion, human action, human characteristics. We've turned them into anthropomorphic characters now. In some cases, more animal-like than man-like, but we've taken that concept, even man's beast-like tendencies. We've partitioned them. When you fuse them together, and you look at them as a whole, that is the pantheon itself, and you say as above, so below, you're talking about yourself. You are the gods. That's the whole fucking point. You have effectively, through your own recognition of this, become a god. You are them. Of course, this begs the question of an afterlife. and transfer. And then there's sort of a non-karmic reincarnation system in mind in some interpretations. The general consensus seems to have been that through participation and understanding of the basic mysteries, one became a god and then ascended through various initiatory levels in some systems as well. Those that didn't, they either became as nothing or they went to, literally, they went to Hades, the lord of the underworld, and there they dwelt, not in the the happy fields of Elysium. No, they dwelt in a rather dark, swampy place where they would drink the juice of forgetfulness and basically just wandered around as a shade and stuff like that. Not really suffering. I don't remember being tortured or anything, but it was gloomy. It was lonely. There was nothing to do, but boredom, basically. It almost is a little bit like the concept of the grave in Judaism, actually, before some refinement of the basic premise of splitting heaven and hell and so forth. You were asleep, basically. No, you're just in the grave. You're not suffering or anything. It's not necessarily the greatest, most happy thing, and there are actually sort of hedonistic traditions within both paganism and Judaism that kind of overlap in a sense, because they effectively say, oh, you might as well have the wine, women, and song. You're not going to be able to do it when you're dead. Who cares? Might as well live life to the fullest. Of course, you shouldn't put upon others in sin by being an asshole to them, because, they die someday too, and they want to enjoy life. But generally, feel the sunshine on your shoulders. Don't worry too much. Go ahead and put a little extra butter on your bread today. That was the basic premise. You also have more ascetic interpretations of this. Well, no. No, the human body is a spirit. That sleep sounds good. Yeah, you're not doing anything. You're just asleep. Well, sleeping is fun. You don't have to work or anything. Fuck the body. And I'll just subsist on water and this dry, moldy piece of bread. But the basic premise is that all of them, and modern psychology interprets it this way as well, and doesn't even need mysticism, by the way, to understand this is fairly obvious. Every story from the Greek and Roman deity system, effectively, and virtually all aspects of all religions, they remark upon the seasons, the cycle of life, birth, life, death, aging, mortality, and natural things. Things from the cosmos, the stars. You look at the constellations. Oh, there's Aries up there. Well, it's a very interesting way of interpreting it. I guess he's actually in the sky and he's glowing and stuff. No, it's a bunch of balls of flaming hydrogen, actually. It's nature, but it's also godly. Depends on how you interpret it, and you can be exactly like that. Look at the archetypes and emulate them. Effectively, they're all parts of you anyway. So that's basically mystery tradition in a nutshell. I know it's an oversimplification of certain more modern aspects of philosophy, and a lot of Christian mystic groups, they build upon that and elaborate massively. I think we can do some reductionism and just go back and look at the basic principles that were later expounded upon. Yes, you can have a million philosophical opinions regarding the meaning and interpretation of some of these religious and spiritual concepts, but the original one is the original one. Although, of course, the Greeks borrowed from other groups, and those groups borrowed from other groups. You're essentially going back to, at the most reduced level, you're going back to like primitive Homo sapiens and Neanderthals and their ritualism. I've talked about Erg punching a tree and hunting and the connection there. Understanding that this is a big part. Primitive man eventually understood that there was predictability with regards to things happening in the sky and in nature. Well, there's a season. Erg draw dot on cave wall every time big light passes sky. And he keeps doing that, and he realizes eventually that there's a pattern as far as when it's warm and sunny and when it's not, when it's cold. Oh, Erg has found a divine secret. Well, certainly a very, very helpful one for mankind, spawning a million different religious premises. That's about all. Peace out.